Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Purple Insider Extra. Matthew Coller along with Sam Ekstrom here inside TCO Performance Center. Folks, it is far too cold for us to shoot any of these videos outside anymore. And it's a little icy in here, to tell you the truth. The last couple of days, don't ever do that again. The last couple of days for the Vikings talking with them has been, I would say, a little weird. The other day when we were talking with Dalvin Cook and Everson Griffin about where this team needs to go, they didn't have a whole lot of answers. Dalvin Cook got very philosophical and said, we need to find ourselves as an offense. We need to get in our rhythm, and didn't have any real specifics of how to improve this after losing to Cooper Rush. And then today, Mike Zimmer came out, pulled some stats out of his pocket and ran down them. We're 12th in points allowed and this and this and this. A bunch of statistics that don't really say they're that great. So it's an interesting choice. But what do you make, Sam, of the vibe around TCO Performance Center?
I sense contradictions, with earlier statements. Mike Zimmer saying on October 3rd, after they fell to 1-3, saying that reporters focus too much on stats. And then today it seemed like stats mattered a lot. It's, Andre Patterson saying that sacks really don't matter. It's more about pressures. And then Mike Zimmer is saying, no, we're first in sacks. That matters. You're kind of catching them, with their tail between their legs a little bit. And it feels like their attempt at answers it's almost revealing in itself, in that they can't find better stats to try to woo us with. 13th in first downs allowed or 12th in points allowed. That's kind of close to league average. So it's kind of turning into a little bit of a joke instead of, I think, the intended purpose that Mike Zimmer had. And that's not really a good look. So I would be a little concerned, I think, if I were, Vikings coach moving into this next stretch at Baltimore, at Los Angeles, because without many answers, I don't know if there's going to be many solutions. And if there aren't solutions, then this could get off the tracks pretty quickly.
I was trying to figure out exactly what the goal was of bringing out these stats that, again, you sort of go, okay. I mean, 3-4, man, and you just lost to Cooper Rush. So what's the goal here? I mean, is the goal to argue that, hey, we're better than our record? But that wasn't any part of the message. I mean, earlier in the year when they were 1-3, it was, hey, guys, we lost on this close kick that went wide. We lost on a fumble. We're better than our record. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that. And actually there was at that point. But now when you get 7 games into the season and you just lost to a backup quarterback on primetime and you couldn't really move the ball, and they are importantly 18th in scoring. And by the way, I mean, this is a league that sends teams that rank first, second in scoring to the Super Bowl, not usually 18th. They don't put that on the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year. Vikings ranked 12th and whatever percentage or something. I mean, usually it's 3-4, and that Bill Parcells, I think, would agree that the record is what really matters here. The way that I looked at it, though, is it's sort of just a sign of the time, Sam, is that when there aren't many answers left, there aren't any, if we only do X, Y, and Z, we'll be fine type of things to say, that people start to reach for anything to say, hey, now are we sort of turning it back on the media? You guys are too negative. Or is it, a message to the team? No, guys, stay with us. We're actually good. You just got to stay with us. It seems like reaching for anything that might possibly be there. And I don't know that message works. And if you were judging just by the general demeanor of everyone we've spoken to this week, it doesn't feel like a team that is me against the world. It feels like a team that knows what just happened and knows what could happen in these next couple of weeks if they don't turn around fast.
No, that's a great point. And I'm thinking back too. I think one of the more like satisfying and unexpected Vikings teams of the Zimmer era, 2015, when they were not expected to be good. They were in a temporary stadium. They seemed like they were still a year away. And then they started winning. And I remember during that winning streak, Mike Zimmer was reveling in the criticism, almost with a smirk. And I know you weren't here on the beat at that time, but before every opponent, he was bringing out, he was emphasizing those that are criticizing the Vikings and bringing up reasons why they shouldn't win, almost as if to say, watch us go win. And now having the opposite reaction trying to push back against the criticism and saying, no, guys, no, we're actually good. Here's why. It's just a different tone. And there's been a lot of defeated faces around here. I mean, Andre Patterson seemed down. Dalvin Cook seemed down. Mike Zimmer was gruff today. Last year, even when they were losing, I think Mike Zimmer tried to combat that with some positivity. He seemed to show up almost uncharacteristically in a good mood sometimes when we didn't expect it. That hasn't been the case this week.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of long faces, and I don't know if they're going to be able to snap out of it.
I think what plays into it is Danielle Hunter's injury. He is out for the year, and that means we have some combination of DJ Wanham, Kenny Willekes, and possibly Patrick Jones, but he's been inactive for a lot of the year. We did see Kenny Willekes get in a game. He was a guy that stood out to us a lot in training camp and in preseason, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to get a lot of work because there's a growing sample size of DJ Wanham really struggling to be able to handle the role that they give him when it's anything more than just a, hey, go in on third down and try to create something. But even then, he's only created a handful of pressures all year. So now you lose your best defensive player and you have to go face one of the best quarterbacks, one of the most impressive offenses with a team that's getting some receivers back. And oh, by the way, when we were out there today, Cameron Dantzler wasn't practicing. We'll see how that goes for the rest of the week, but the cornerback group is already light. And I think that Mike Zimmer knew from very early on in the season that, I mean, this was a very, very thin roster that if you lose a player or two here or there, especially a superstar like Danielle Hunter, you're going to be in very tough shape. So now this season seems to hinge, because I have trouble thinking that they'll just shut down the Baltimore Ravens offense. It seems to hinge on fixing what ails them offensively. The problem is, Sam, that week after week we've heard, well, if we just do this, or we just do that, or we just come up with whatever on offense, then it will change. And then they have a game like they had against the Dallas Cowboys. It's just hard to see over a long stretch, maybe a game here or there, them being able to fix that inconsistency issue that they've had on offense now for basically 3.5 years.
No, I mean, it's a much harder fix, I feel like, than the defense, where I think, Mike Zimmer's been saying, we just got to get better at the 2-minute drill. And to some extent, that's true. Like, the defensive numbers have been much better early in games, and then the late collapses have influenced, I think, how they've left the game feeling, how we've remembered the games. But the defense has done some good things. The offense, in 3 of 4, no show. I mean, Browns and Cowboys games, they score in the first drive and not after. Both games completely listless, barely getting in the red zone, having a hard time getting even one first down on drives. It seems like in those games, you need a complete overhaul. And then at random times against Arizona and Carolina, you look like the best in the league. It's a strange Jekyll Hyde dichotomy that seems unanswerable. And, Kirk Cousins didn't offer a whole lot, instead of saying it was just a combination of factors against the Cowboys that led them to the 16-point performance. But that's every game. There's always a combination of factors. We didn't get any real substantial answers. Clint Kubiak's not one to give us those either. So I don't know what the plan is. I mean, have Kirk play better, have Dalvin run better. That's what it boils down to. But how do you get to that point? And how do you get their confidence back?
Yeah, and Mike Zimmer did say on Monday that you have to get the ball in the hands of the playmakers more often, which I think is about, the most obvious answer, but easier said than done on a week-to-week basis for this team. Usually the playmakers haven't gotten the ball unless it's a desperate situation and the other team is sort of playing off. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see how they handle Baltimore's aggressiveness. Also, Dalvin Cook didn't run particularly well the other day, and the offensive line was sort of at the center of that. And we're still talking about the same things week after week, and that's when it starts to add up. And so if you have another bad loss or two, then you're even in an NFC that is super unimpressive at the bottom, you're still scratching and clawing to even stay in the hunt. So let me ask you this before we wrap up, Sam. If the Vikings are to win this game against Baltimore, what will they have to do?
Prevent the big play. Lamar Jackson actually throws a really good deep ball. He's got some speedy receivers. That team is crazy fast. They probably have to turn him over. I mean, like they did against Kyler Murray. And weirdly, when the Vikings have actually created turnovers, they seem to lose. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Vikings were +2 and lost a game, and they've done it twice this year. in the take give, but you got to keep trying. You got to create some turnovers and capitalize on mistakes and be more opportunistic. They had 2 takeaways against the Cowboys, and I think they went backwards on both the drives or gained very few yards. You got to be better than that. You got to have more time of possession and, just extend some drives once in a while. It seems like the Vikings 3-and-out percentage just keeps getting worse and worse. They've got the second most 3-and-outs per game in the NFL right now. That's unacceptable for an offense with Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. Can't happen.
Well, we will see what takes place in Baltimore. If the Vikings don't come out with a convincing win, then the pressure will continue to mount. So if you would like to hear more, lots of fun stuff on the Purple Insider podcast, go check that out. This week, Jeremiah Searles breaking down how they can potentially get back in the race and making the case for at least one member of the triumvirate of power here in Minnesota. So make sure you go listen to that, and we will catch you later.